Okay.
Just to put a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit of like perspective in terms of why. So I mentioned earlier that like a lot of like certain attitudes were created and seen as negative, but that's because everything is out of context now, right? So like the old traditions is to have the you know the ato and the dap ice where the women are they're in womanhood in their side, and the men learn about being a man on the other side.
Mhm.
And so that made sense back then in that
At its
cultural
time, yeah.
society. And yeah, and it's time. And the funny thing is that like it's just like a lot of things in terms of beliefs, is like things get passed down and they get passed down, but then meaning gets lost.
Mm,
So men still gather together, but a lot of the lesson learning isn't passed down. And a lot of like the straight talk in terms of values are not
mhm,
passed down, you know?
Is that a
So
generational thing?
I think that's just part of the evolution of like kind of losing your culture a little bit, you know?
mhm,
and and
Well,
and
I
moving more into the Western type of thinking. I so
mhm,
I that's my my what I think and what I've observed is
because I
because
think
the
that
you know
happened in the Philippines first. And you could see with
yes,
our
yeah,
parents'
definitely happens in the
generation
Philippines.
and that separation that happened amongst,
Yeah,
as they came over here, because they're the ones, for at least our parents' context, they're the ones who
right.
came over here. And they're the ones who got educated in this very Western way of looking at the world.
Hmm.
And so that's a generation. Then I don't know what generation your parents would be, but they might.
And I sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. But
they
But
uh, they were I didn't really know my mom, but I think my
oh,
dad was pretty toxic. I mean, like, in the sense
mm.
that, like, in the sense that he
the
goes to work
typical.
and then comes home drunk, that kind of thing.
So
Otherwise,
he had
he's
some
Yeah.
pretty good.
antisocial, kind of like disagreeable behaviors, at least, uh, or
Like, okay,
antisocial kind of
well, like,
behaviors.
if he were to be with us here, I probably would have said a couple things, but like nothing major, nothing like
Oh, got it.
like
Yeah.
yeah, he would change diapers and stuff like that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
he wouldn't talk about feelings.
No, no, no. That would be a no go.
No,
Yeah.
Um,
that's like,
that would be a
see,
no
I
go.
think that's
I
definitely
understand. I hear that.
so you mentioned like generational kind of thing, and I think that's definitely folks from the Philippines. They kind of like continue this certain way of thinking, with again without other things being connected with it anymore. So because like when you see
Yeah.
a lot of folks, especially a lot of the first generation folks, you'll see them when all the men will be hanging out together and all the females will be hanging out together. But then you see the second generation folks, like our generation or even 1.5 generation, they're all mixed up. All the girls and the guys are kind of mixing up and talking to each other and having fun. But like
Yeah.
the older generation, you see all the men hang out with each other, and on the other side, all the women hang out with each other. They're separate tables, and they just like do their own
Mm.
thing. But
Oh, I
like I
got it. I
said, the
got it.
second generation, the 1.5 generation, they don't do that. They kind of mix up. So like
Mhm.
they talk like what we're doing right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
our this kind of thing. So I think like a lot of that um will change in the next few generations. Like so
I hope so.
uh yeah, I mean it's already changing like with our generation, second generation
Mhm.
folks, 1.5 generation folks. But these attitudes and stuff, what you might consider like antisocial kind of behavior, like continues because of again that loss of connection in terms of like the context in which it came from. you know
Mhm.
it was
Yeah.
normal
Right.
to kind of like the men kind of hang out because they're learning
Mhm.
from each other.
Yeah.
But then of course, and then and we talked about this before in terms of what's a man's role, right? You learn that in the auto. What's a female's role? You learn that. And it's not that that's a bad thing, but that's how it was in those times. It's like you
Mhm.
learn what is it to be a man, what is it to be a
Mhm.
woman. But some of the things that connected to like what does it mean to be a man now is like,
Right.
oh, smoking, drinking, so those this kind of
And they don't
what does it
have the
mean?
the auto. They don't have the
The
context
values
to
aren't
create a
connected to it.
framework
The context, yeah,
to be
because I
mentored into
think like
this.
yeah, to be mentored as a man, you know what I mean, to kind of like understand why are we gathering like this, because there's supposed to be values and certain things that are supposed to be coming across with that, not just drinking, but like a sense of brotherhood where we're learning, especially from the older folks. Yeah, because that
Right.
kind of like male mentorship is important amongst males. And but again, if you're not getting the values from the older folks to the younger generation and the next generation, you kind of like get the gathering, you get the drinking, but again, the rest of it's kind of X'd out. Well, where's the rest of that part? And yeah, so then I think you end up like adopting certain things like, oh, what is like, oh, to be a man is to do this, or to be a man is to do that. And you get stuck in those things without even thinking about why you're doing it. Why is it that way?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
you get stuck in a certain mentality, and you know,
Especially when they grow up back home, it's like it is what it is.
yeah, yeah, it
Like
Right.
is what it
Right.
is.
everyone does.
Do you see
Everyone
it
says
changing
it.
for do you
Yeah.
see that changing amongst your peer group though? I mean, do you see the evolution happening amongst it within your peer group?
Not like not the guys in the 20s right now, because a lot of the ones that are here are like me, are like 1.5, but they are in a
Mhm,
household where they're still stuck in
mhm,
in that mentality. So
Right.
then a
Right.
lot of
mhm,
them are 1.5, but they're stuck in that mentality, so they still have that, like,
mhm,
that behavior, I guess. But I could see that the ones below us, the ones that were born here or were here when they were like 4 or 5 or something, I can see the change from them.
mhm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not yet from me.
Yeah,
I haven't met anyone in my age group that like here in Calgary that
yeah.
that think differently.